Hello, good evening, and welcome to another in the series, Why I Write. My name is Toplin Oliver, and it is my greatest pleasure to share with you to another in the series, Why and Oliver, and it is my greatest pleasure. We always get that feedback when our own face comes right back up.
Yeah.
Okay, we're here. So it's my greatest pleasure tonight to welcome another very special guest, a very, very special guest, son of the Jamaican soil, and of course, a name synonymous with comedy, artistry, theater, television, MC. We have no other than Owen Blakka Ellis with us tonight as our very special guest. And my goodness, welcome, 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 Owen Blakka. How you doing? Good
I
to see
am I am blessed and highly favored. I am full of thankfulness.
you. Listen, no, I can see it all over you. Thank you for those gorgeous colors. Repping Edna Manley College tonight.
Every time, every time.
And just in case anybody is wondering, no, we're not going to focus on Edna Manley College tonight,
No,
but it is such a huge part of your life, your
indeed,
development,
indeed.
and where you are today, and kind of how you started.
Mhm.
So over the years, we have seen you on our TV screens. You have given us belly full of laughter on stage. We don't know as much about your writing, but I personally have witnessed your hand, your creative hand. I know as we prep to come on, and yes, we couldn't get it together last night. It started on my end, and then boy, it just wasn't happening. So I guess the last day in January was the day for this to have happened. So here we are with Why I Write. So Owen, thank you so much again for your patience, and thank you for making yourself available for our platform tonight. Yay!
It was meant to happen today.
Yes, it was meant to
Indeed.
definitely happen today. So we're glad we're able to do this. Now, let us start at the very beginning. As I told you, as I said last night when we were trying to go live, and as I said to you off air, we may end up having to do two parts because Blakka, you're so multifaceted. How did you get to be so multifaceted? Where you come from? You get a special dose of everything put together. Let's start right there.
Where? How? I think I'm by nature easily bored, and I'm by nature always I'm and it might be a condition that some might consider to need treatment, where I can't sit still, I can't stand still, and I'm every single time from I've known myself until this day, I am never ever doing only one thing at a time. I'm always doing multiple things. I am walking to school while studying a poem. I am going to the shop while rehearsing the thing that I need to buy, while planning a story. So I've always been involved in doing multiple things at the same time. And that has been a part of my life. So it was very difficult to think. Like very often people ask me, so what are you? And I'm like, and I will list several things and they're like, but what are you most? And I'm like, why do I have to pick one? Why do I have to cover all myself into one thing? I am all those things. So I remember a young man in Toronto years ago saw me at a show. I was doing a poetry show. I was doing some real deep, serious stuff. It was like, but you're the comedian, brother. Why not get joke? And I'm like, I do that too, but it was like, but which one are you? I'm like, I can do all of those things. Why do I have to pick one? You know, life is a buffet. You take some of this, take some of that, and you enjoy it. And that's, I have
Mhm.
always been involved in multiple things, I think, and none doesn't detract from the other because I plan around doing them so that each feeds the other and each satisfies itself. So none of my talents should bad mind the other talent. They're all they're all coming together to empower me and enrich me and enliven me, and so I can then give it back to the world.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't see why we have to pick one thing
Yeah.
either. I'll never forget once I was in a job interview. And again, yes, I was doing all the several things. Yeah. And they asked, why do you do so many things? And my answer to them was, because I can.
Yes.
Because I can. That's it. because I can. Where did you start off in life, Owen? How did you grow up? Where did you grow up? Who was your mother and father? Who were your brothers and sisters? Who
Okay.
you? Who you?
Oh man, I didn't know from Trenchtown. 6A Upper First Street, Kingston 12. And I was raised with mother and father. I was raised by an aunt, my mother's older sister, Auntie Becca. Auntie Becca raised all of my mother's children and several others. So I never had the nuclear family, so to speak. I knew my father. I lived at First Street. My father lived at Third Street. My mother lived in Montego Bay. He was a dancer. My father, my father was a singer and tailor designer because he sang back up with his younger brother Alton, and he was also into designing and making. So, and as I grew up in Trenchtown, First Street, when the Trenchtown.
I don't want us to like do a run-on sentence from Alton Ellis. Yes, Alton Ellis is one of your uncle there. All right.
Right. My
Great
father's
Jamaican
younger brother.
artist. Right.
So I grew up in Trenchtown, and thanks to common entrance exam, I got to step out of Trenchtown and attend high school at Excelsior. And between Trenchtown and Excelsior, I discovered my own interest in the performing arts. So at Trenchtown Primary School, I was dancing for festival. That was my first foray into the performing arts, dancing for festival. I performed on Ring Ding and met Miss Lou, the Trenchtown Primary School student. And I went to Excelsior and I became the school clown, very into language and literature and writing, but I was the class clown. So, and we had a mango tree at Excelsior where you just sit down and just talk to it. And I would recount my real life experiences in Trenchtown with my auntie, who was very abusive and very colorful a character. She manufactured a bad word. She could have conjugate a bad word. So I would tell my friends in school what auntie did last night or said last night, and they'd be reeling up and killing up with laughter. So I began to hone my skill as a comedian by telling my own stories. And I put a big value on people to write, people with R-I-G-H-E-T to W-R-I-T-E. And that right to write becomes a right, the R-I-T-E, that I live out, because I believe that as we own our own stories and tell them back, we're also enacting our own therapy. We're also claiming our own right of our own existence. So I've been telling stories, and that's how I began. Trenchtown Primary, Excelsior High School, dancing, and then performing poetry and performing comedy, and it just evolved like that.
So it evolved you right into as we knew it back then, the Cultural Arts Training Center, the Jamaica School of Drama. It just, I as I was talking to you, I remember you from the time when I was in high school. I think I must have been in 8th grade or 9th grade, because I would do summer programs at the School of Drama. And I'll never forget you being one of those drama students. And we all knew you were drama students, but we had this on respect for all y'all because that's what you were doing full time. And during the summer, you used to be one of those drama students running the workshops. It wasn't the lecturers that were doing this. Tell us a little bit about that experience. How did you know or decide that the drama school was a place for you at that time in your life?
And in fact, I didn't decide it. Interestingly, my head and heart was set on studying law. That was my hope and aspiration. But towards my last year in high school, when Excelsior High School entered the Secondary School Drama Festival, I won the Best Actor Award, and I thought, hey, I can do this. So let me check out School of Drama. And I ended up there. And the School of Drama had a wonderful arrangement where students were encouraged to practice their craft as drama educators by teaching the children theater workshop, summer workshop, and so on. I was very involved in that. And give me a chance to hone my skill, build my network, and really just discover what I really enjoy. And I really enjoy teaching. I get much more fulfillment from teaching than I could ever get from performing on stage. Just like performing on stage pay better than teaching.
Right. Well, in some cases, in our case.
Yeah.
Before you move on, I wanted to get a little bit more inside the mind of the man, Owen Blakka Ellis. And this is in relation to your writing and your published writing in the local newspaper, things that are on your mind, things that bother your heart, things that sometimes it bad if you take it make laugh. Sometimes it's not a laughing matter, but something where you consider what's on your heart and mind, what's inside Owen's head in 2023.
The angst that I feel when I witness injustice, the anger that I feel when I see oppression, the discomfort that I experience when I witness the manifestations of inequalities, gender inequality, class inequality, and those are things that get me. When I see the discourse around the value of the arts and how we on one level pretend to value the arts, but when it comes to making it viable as a means of living for artists, then it's not so much so. And those are the things that get me going intellectually, emotionally, and me thinking, talking, and writing.
When you completed your studies at the then School of Drama, then working out of the Dennis Scott Theater, and were you there during the time when there was a name change to the Edna Manley College of
It happened after I left.
It happened after you left.
Yeah, shortly after I left. Yeah.
Right. Now, what happened after you left the School of Drama, Cultural Arts Training Center? Was it that, as you just mentioned, and a lot of people didn't know this, that when you attended the School of Drama, what you came away with was, well, I know at some point later on, is a Bachelor of Education, a Bachelor in Arts Education, meaning you're equipped to, as you mentioned, teach drama in education, not so much to go on stage and act. Thank God for the theater minds we had back then that kept us in such a robust theater.
But interestingly, in my time, we had to do a dual accreditation. So I actually did a diploma in theater arts and diploma in drama education. We were being trained, the college had a very distinct tripartite arrangement where you had to learn the craft to be an actor or director and learn the craft to be an educator, but also importantly, to practice using your craft as a means of facilitating development. There was arts for stage, arts in education, and arts for development, working with youth and so on. So we did community drama. It was, and those three prongs were what really fueled my further interest in work.
Listen, that is beautiful. I'll tell you, one of the blessings of being in an environment, a rich cultural environment like Jamaica, is that we take this great omniscient approach to most everything we do. Like you, I wanted to do law. And when I went to the university, that was my plan, to go into law. Did all the requisite law courses and so on, observed some things, and I'm like, nah, I think it's gonna be communication. And because I did both sides, I did law and I did the creative arts and social sciences. So the beauty is we get the opportunity to experience the different levels of, and it's more than education, intellectual stimulation, social discourse, and the need and the desire to grow out more.
Yes.
The question that brings me to, for you, Owen,
yeah,
that most people know you as, what was the thing that stood out most to you as a young man in theater back in the day that still sticks with you today and informs literally most of what you do. What is that one thing or three things or four things?
I think perhaps the most important thing was that in our work in that era, in the late 70s through the 80s, we were beginning to evolve a distinct Caribbean theater vocabulary.
What is that?
So it is it is it is the discovery that we could infuse theater, traditional theater, with our own cultural norms and mores and forms. So it wasn't just learning the classical lines and dialogue and monologue as per the Shakespearean or classical North American scripts. We could then infuse those with the rituals that we
Mhm.
live, the games and the songs and the cultural traditions that inform who we are. Mai bingi dinki mini pokomina kumina gerebente, um, you know, children's games and folk songs and those things that our cultural retention became part of what became our vocabulary in theater. And that for me is what has really made me enjoy this work so much. It wasn't just so. For example, give you a real example practically. Toward my final year, we did the classical Shakespearean piece, The Tempest, directed by Royal Gibbons. Royal directed Tempest as if it took place on a Caribbean island. So I played the spirit Ariel, and playing Ariel meant I also had to enter stage sometimes with a steel pan around my neck, still playing pan. So to play that role, I had to learn to somersault, cartwheel, literally fly from flat to flat, but also play steel pan in a pan round neck, which is a tradition from old time Trinidad. So those and what Dennis Scott and Royal Gibbons and Anna Forthmith and those folks did was enrich the theater learning experience with all the things that made our a unique Caribbean people. And that for me is the thing that has been the base and bottom and belly of what makes me so happy in theater.
That's oh, that's a whole barrel full of goodness. It makes sense. It makes
Yeah,
sense.
man.
And this is the joy when you speak about us having the opportunity to use and utilize and incorporate and inculcate our Caribbean identity on stage. I remember they used to be so upset with me, Blakka, when I started in radio, live radio, and every now and again I'd broke out in patois. They
Yeah.
couldn't
Oh,
stand it.
the temerity. The
Dare
temerity.
I?
Yeah.
But it was sweet to me
Yeah.
because of the language I learned from our Caribbean novelists
Yes.
that gave rise to much of what you may have been blessed to work on with some of these auspicious persons in theater and creative works back then. So I began to hear back our own voice, our own
Mhm.
spirit from the ancestors coming all the way through as to why we do what we do. If you've just joined us, you are watching Why I Write with me, Totlin, and my very special guest tonight, fellow thespian and long time know about Smuddy,
Indeed.
Owen Blakka Ellis. Blakka, how did you come up? How did not you come up, but how did they come up? Where your name Blakka come from?
The typical Jamaican thing where we are on the place in the world, we pick somebody's physical, obvious peculiarity that becomes a name. So if you're fatty, name Fatty, or you might name Tiny as a play with a fat person named Tiny. Or if you had big name Big Head. But I was in grade 3 at Trenchtown Primary School, learning about adjectives, comparatives, superlative, and Mr. Big is an adjective. Bigger is the comparative. Biggest superlative. Now, class, look around the room for some examples. And one boy said, Miss, we black, in blacker. That became my name. I embraced it. You'd have a next boy who was blackest. So we had the full range.
Where
Black,
is he today? Where's Blackest today?
I have no idea, but I retained it because it was meant to be kind of put down. but it's also what we do in the Caribbean. We take what's meant to be an arrow of hurt and bend it and make art. So
Yeah,
you attempt to hurt and we change that hurt into art. That's what I've
simple.
done. Yeah.
You know, I made a post similar to that the other day, and someone was very upset that we do exactly what you described.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'll never forget one day I was on a bus in Halfway Tree, and a woman came on the bus and she was cussing like crazy. Yes, and the whole on who can F word off. The bus driver just sit down and start chuckling and say, so who must whatever the other half? Another time again, I was
Yeah.
sitting down on a bus and street vendors outside, you know, they're walking by selling them stuff. And I don't know what the street vendor have with this girl who is already sitting on the coaster bus, right there in Halfway Tree, in front of where Miami's department store would be.
Mhm.
And him just look on her and say, you see all your face look like it's one beat out and red down.
All right.
I will never forget that. I just want to hear some folks who are tuning in with us tonight. Canute Lawrence, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being here. Petulia, thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Can we put in questions there?
Yes, Sylvia and Canute, I would like to ask Blakka, as a comedian, is there any topic that comedians should never touch or use as content for public performance? You want to take that one?
Oh my God, Canute, what I'm saying, man, Canute, listen to me now. Youth, here. So that debate is an ongoing one, and it emerged and it got some fire and fuel when whatever happened with Chris Rock and
Will
and
Smith.
and that slap that heard around the world. And it's a debate that I've been into a number of times with other comedians.
Mhm.
Some comedians believe that nothing is sacred. All things are par for the course.
Mhm.
I tend to disagree with that. But it's a personal thing. I would not make it into a rule, to each his own. There are some things that I will never use for laughter.
Mhm.
I will never joke around rape or slavery. I'm very clear about it. Because for me, there are too many layers involved and too many triggers that are possible with those topics.
Mhm.
But you have to be led by your own spirit and by your own guts. And so the aim of comedy is to make people laugh and feel good laugh. And there are some comedians who employ shock and employ jokes at the expense of the audience. Um, but it's just not my style to ridicule people. It's just not my style to make the laughter be derisive. My style is to more go for the self-deprecating humor. I will laugh at me. I tell you my flaws and my foibles, and we laugh at my stories, my blunders, my mess ups, because I'm okay with sharing my story. And that's how I've always gone about it. So to
Mhm.
answer your question directly, Canute, that's something that each comedian has to decide himself or for herself. My own part, I've I just use those two topics. Slavery and rape, I will never trivialize enough to make a joke of it.
Mhm. Mhm. And I would tend to agree with you. Thank you for that question, Canute. Really appreciate it. I would tend to agree with you. As an audience member, my take on it is that if you're going to entertain me, you have to come with intelligence.
Yeah.
You have to come with some kind of not only mental or educational intelligence or historical intelligence, you have to come good with emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
What I see past a humor in some quarters, in too many quarters, is a laziness and an easy go-to. For instance, below the belt.
Yeah.
I've heard funny jokes below the belt all the time, but it is the way they are told.
Yeah.
But for the
Yeah.
most part, 90% of the time, I don't find it. And we are blessed, I think, with a history of having coming out of the British camp who are clever with risque, clever.
Yeah.
And you have to listen quick and you listen fast.
Yeah.
So when I watch you on stage, as you did with Bello and Blakka and Joan Andrea and Tony Hendricks, when you did that whole Laugh Jamaica series,
yeah.
not, I mean, on stage first for TV,
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah, the fun, I'll tell you something. I enjoy making people laugh because I like them. So you'll get more comedy from me at the party among friends because I like these people. I want to make them laugh. Part of it. And when I'm performing for a paying audience, it becomes a chore after it becomes work. And sometimes, and that is part of the reason why I enjoy teaching more than stage work.
Because you know, you kind of pray, you giving me an answer because I was going to ask you some things about that. Go ahead, please.
I have a captive audience, and 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 I like them, and I want to make, so the aim is not to make them laugh, to teach them something, but I know that the laughter will make them retain the knowledge, will make them enjoy the process of learning. So I enjoy the laughter. So it's really about making the people who I like feel better about life. So, and that's how I enjoy comedy, you know, and that's how most of my comedy began really. My friends at school, laughter began for me as a defense mechanism, a way to really establish belonging among my peers in school. And I'm very clear about that. I'm very clear about that. And I don't pretend that if I don't begin to think, oh, I'm clever, let me make them laugh. No, it was almost therapy for me to some extent. And I'm very clear about that history, that origin. And it worked because I tell something. My comedy career began really and truly as a professional comedian in '85 when I wasn't trying to do comedy. I was doing dub poetry. And Bella was singing some powerful, rich protest songs, and I was doing poetry. We were a duo doing poetry and song. We were rehearsing for a show in '85. It was the Caribbean Public Theater Exchange. We were rehearsing for that show, and we were doing our routine. He had a song called "We Don't Need No More War," and I had a poem called "The Real Raw Reality." We rehearsed it, and in walked Anna Ford Smith, our former lecturer in acting, was this thing with Anna, waiting, and her response was, "Guys, it's boring. It's very serious." And she made the point that on the same show that we were doing, they had Dennis Scott and Lorna Goodison. So they were already getting some deep poetry and serious stuff. And she said, "You guys are funny. You're a good actor. Do something funny for a change." And we devised this little skit called "What is Culture," which was really a tongue-in-cheek look at how Jamaica frame culture. So I did a Netflix impersonation where he explained culture in some very verbose way. We did some play with ballet, calling it ballet. And we did a kind of mockery about what I think culture means, Tandashiki, change the name, and so on. And it was hilarious. And that became Bello and Blakka routine. And that's how it really became a comedy act.
Wow, I would have never guessed because already right now in my mind's eye, I'm seeing on stage Una singing. I remember Bella was the lead on this one singing "Mi Una Visa."
Right. But then our team song for that first thing was Kuya, Kuya, Botia, Isabella, Blakka, and this culture. We are going to take up like a European tonight. That was the team that was basically saying this is Jamaican culture. Some people, culture is folk and Afrocentric pretension. Some culture is very, classical, and we were laughing at that. And that became the routine. And that became the comedy act. And we became a comedy duo, Bello and Blakka.
I love it. I love it.
Thanks to Anna Ford Smith.
I want to say hello and good night to Connie Lawrence and Jean Goodwin. Thank you for tuning in. Bernard Coburn, who was looking for this feed the whole night last night.
Ras Double Burn himself, Bernard Coburn.
And let's see who else here we have to hail up. For right now, Vivian Peter, thank you so much for tuning in. Now, Bello, see me, Bello. Because I always said Bello before Blakka. Blakka, you
Yeah.
had you have spent some years in recent time living in Canada, where our beloved Miss Lou
Yeah.
had her final years.
But left in canoe. Left in canoe.
Listen to me now. And you've been doing, north and south, north and south, south and north. How would you compare your life experience as a creative artist, as a writer, as an educator, as a community builder, going from place to place? How do you, as an entrenched, real Jamaican Caribbean person, function? And whenever I talk to my creative artists like you, I in the back of my mind, I'm thinking of Claude McKay and how he had to weather the storms of living away from Jamaica all those years ago. So in these modern times, how do you navigate? How is it for you? How do you assimilate? How do you not assimilate? What works for you? What doesn't work for you in this Canada to Jamaica thing?
There's a line from Marlon James's book, The Book of Night Woman, which I love, a brilliant novel. The line in there that repeated a number of ways, and it said, "The Negro always walks in a circle." Right? And for me, that's a very powerful image of how our life rotates. For me, and if anybody uses this, I know I'm gonna sue them because it's my own topic. To my title for my current exploration is is to look at the extent to which our lives, and certainly my life, the history of where I'm from, Trenchtown in Kingston, and our movement as a people, and our growth as a people is really linked to what I call exodus, exile, and pilgrimage.
Mm,
Exodus, exile, and pilgrimage. The movement of people from rural to urban to create in Kingston squatter settlements and housing schemes and to create new ways of making a living.
mhm,
And so we evolved into Trenchtown being Kingston's real first squatter settlement. And then that was Exodus. People are moving into the place. Bob Marley, I love to tell folks, isn't from Trenchtown. Bob Marley is from 9 Mile St. Anne. But his mother was part of that Exodus who was to look like a town, ended up in Trenchtown, that Exodus. And then there's the exile that happened in the 70s, who left Ghana, Miami, who left Ghana, Toronto, who left Ghana, England, who left Kingston, go back a country, that exile because of the turmoil of the 70s and the 80s, right?
mm,
But in between and always, there is that pilgrimage. The soul wants to go back to where there's nurturing. And the reason why, even today, when I went to Trenchtown, there were bottles of tourists in Trenchtown. That's a pilgrimage to go back to where Bob Marley used to write and
mm,
things. So, and for me, that is what excites me, and that's what I think informs my relationship with North America and with traveling and my constant return to Jamaica to go back to Canada and so on. It's that whole experience of exodus, exile, and pilgrimage.
mm. I love that. That makes perfect sense to me. And as I say to you off air, I don't believe that our Caribbean region can absorb all the talent that it
So,
produces.
so we have to go out. We have to go
But
out.
I forgot all. I
Yeah,
forgot out.
yeah.
I mean, today I saw where Yassas Afari,
Mhm.
internationally known dub poet, just as you are internationally known in your field, posted a picture, tagged me in a picture of Wintry Rose, where him and I think Beres Hammond and a few other of our artists are on the road. And I'm like, I see this. The song that immediately comes to mind is Buffalo Soldier.
Mhm.
And you and I
Mhm.
have toured together in one production. I remember we came up and we did a production in Miami, and it was
When the
just for
cat's
the
away.
weekend.
When the
It was
cat's
just for the
away.
weekend. And we
Yes,
ended up staying in Florida for like about 2 weeks. And we start
yes,
getting pissed because we
yes.
won't go back our yard
Welcome back. Oh yeah, yeah. The
because the
the
shows were
urge to go
sold
back home.
out.
Yeah, man. That need to return can only be experienced when we go somewhere else.
Yes.
And then we feel the need to return. But how long somebody lives in the States or in Canada or England, there's that urge, that hunger to go back, even for a day, for a few days, to
Yes.
reconnect with self. You know, the way Muslims aspire to do the pilgrimage to Mecca, every every spirit has that urge to go back to Africa. When I went, and I'm sure can relate. When I went back to Ghana, I mean, it's like my spirit felt like I have now completed an important pilgrimage. And I tell every Jamaican, every Caribbean person should go to Africa or India or China or all of the above. Because you get this connection that, hey, what Dennis got called echo in the bones, it resonates, it connects, it speaks, it screams, it shouts, it's saying, hey, here you are, finally. And I mean, I think those things are very, very important. That we, and that's why Caribbean people, our life of migration is important. That travel, right? The ships that took the time, the boats that time was took from island to island, and the
Mhm.
ships that came, all those movements and those vessels are part of our history. And it's something that even if you can't intellectualize it, it's a visceral experience that, hey, something's happening here. This place is like home. I'm telling you, I'm having even I thought now when I remember going to Ghana.
Mhm. I
You
remember
know, I
once,
think that
Owen.
go.
I remember once, Owen, you told me of a trip to a falls. It was, and I'm not sure if it was Ghana that you went to.
In Zimbabwe, Victoria Falls in
Zimbabwe. And
Zimbabwe.
the way you described that falls to me, it burned such a deep home in my travel brain. Then I'm like, I need to go there. The way you describe it, I want you now to describe for our audience that visit in
Yeah.
Zimbabwe, why you were there, why you made that particular pilgrimage.
Okay, so it was through my work with groundwork. We were sent to a workshop, a 3-week workshop in Zimbabwe, in Bulawayo in Zimbabwe. And two of us went, myself and Michelle Barra from Barbados, at the Caribbean contingent. And the workshop was called African Strategies for Training Community Grassroots Workers. And they invited people, Africans from all over the diaspora. So they invited Africans from Europe, England, and the UK, and the USA, but only the Caribbean sent people. We were loved. They thought that by coming there, we accepted that we were Africans too. So we went there. So we spent those weeks in Bulawayo. And we visited the Victoria Falls. First of all, I forget the name of the falls, its original name, which meant place of place of smoke and thunder. And the falls feel like smoke and thunder. The sound, you hear it miles approaching. Not only that, when you're even about a mile or half mile away from the falls, you're driving through perpetual sprays of water. That's how powerful the falls are. And when you stand on the Victoria Falls, you feel minuscule, you feel like an ant. The thing is massive. And the falls, they changed its original name and call it Victoria Falls because the first white man who saw it during Victoria's reign. No, that bothered me, but hey, it's not my country, you know. But that experience, it was amazing. The fall is I can't describe it in my own words how big it looked and felt and sounded, and how small I felt just being there. You realize how insignificant humanity is in the face of this large thing called nature. We are, and yet we're given dominion over the earth. I think the part it tough. It out of this world.
It
Trust me.
makes you feel very humble, very
Yes,
humble.
yes,
And you have to go hug up your humility. Yes,
absolutely,
just the passion
absolutely.
that you have shared here. You see, I bet you never remember saying you didn't describe all of this to me, but I remember.
Oh my God.
I felt the passion. No worry, you never tell me no special secret that me have against you. So you not for yourself.
Yeah, and kind of thing they're saying he felt at home in Ghana. Yeah, man. I want to encourage but the thing that licked me the most in Ghana was that I felt like every Jamaican had a double in Ghana. I swear. I was like, well, isn't that one of them? Hey, I know you. The place felt so familiar. It was amazing. Trust me, Africa. I've been to Ghana, Zimbabwe, South Africa. I spent a couple of years in Zambia. But Africa speaks to my soul, speaks to my spirit. You know,
Why did you go to Zambia, and how come you spent a couple years there?
so not years, days.
Days. Oh, okay.
Yeah. No man. I've only spent years in Canada. Everywhere else, a couple of weeks, at the most a month. But Canada is where I actually try to live, and not very successfully, I would say, because my wife thinks it's ego, and perhaps she's right. The defense of in Canada, I was always other. I am black, aging, immigrant, male, and all those things very often meant one step back. In Jamaica, I mean, I'm blacker, means something, and there's value in that. So,
but it's not even your well-knowingness. And this is why it gives me great pleasure and honor to be with you tonight, Blakka, as a compadre. No, we're not bosom buddy like the other rant and arm all.
Yeah. But you know, look at me out already.
You understand me. So we have a vibe, and this has been long going. We don't have your chat every day. We don't, but the point is that the wealth of work that you have done as a Jamaican in Jamaica, and the different textures, the different layers. I mean, I'm surprised to hear that you doing comedy is such a chore, because it takes some doing out of you to write comedic skit that have all the right punchlines at the right places at the right time, and will go over well to your audience. Tyrone Barnard commented here in our chat that, boy, I feel like I'm in the presence of greatness right now, because he loves his pilgrimage. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
About let me just be clear that I'm not putting down the comedic experience. I'm not saying it's an annoyance, but it really comes across very often like a chore to me, because as it becomes a commercial endeavor, you have a gig, and it's an office parties over there today, and it's a comedy show by a promoter over there tomorrow. And you have to now generate new content and keep topical. For example, I did this show every year that I was organized by my brothers and myself, or Boxing Day comedy show. It was comedy cook-up. And for the first time last Christmas, I didn't do it. First time in like 14 years, I wasn't on the show. But I felt relieved by just not being on the show for the first time. And here's why. For those large comedy shows, invariably I'm the closing act, because they want to defer to me as the elder statesman of comedy, and I have to be the closing. What that means is, if I'm closing a comedy show with 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 comedians, I have to watch every performer, because I don't want to, because even though we might have different treatments, I don't want to repeat topics. If one comment on the you saying about money get thief, I'm gonna say, okay, fix that. I have to watch every act perform and say, okay, eliminate that, okay, change that, and so on. I have to watch them all. Plus, I'm aware that while it is therapeutic and it is very relieving and so on, laughter can be painful. If you're still gonna laugh for 4 or 5 hours, when I go on, they've been sitting for 4 or 5 hours, laughing a lot. I have to work harder. As I get older, I want to work smarter, not harder. So I would prefer to do a show where I'm the only act, not being selfish, because it's just less work really. So, so there's that. I'm much more at ease with with homogeneous audiences, where everybody's there. Give me the staff party, the private gigs where they all know each other. It's a different than, because Jamaican audiences are very peculiar. They challenge you. They come, they post a mark comedy show, and them come and say, If you think about make me laugh, you're a comedian, no? All right, we are coming now. Me think they go laugh. And you can feel that sense of challenge, right? I don't need that. You know, I want, you don't need to prove to nobody so that I can make them laugh. If no one laugh, I beat them, make them laugh. You can't bother with that. So, and that's probably the reason why and also because it's not all I do. And I'm quite easily, comfortably able to just do poetry, read my poetry. I perform other, I could perform a whole set where I just do Dennis Scott and Oko Onora and Mimi Flu or do my own poetry. But I'm a trained actor and I'm a trained performer. And trained actors supposed to can take content, interpret it, and deliver it in a way that makes it come alive. So I can do that too. I don't want to be stuck into the comedy show. I can do the poetry, I can drum. I toured, I performed at the Angoulême Jazz en France Festival with Okonora as a percussionist, as a backing vocalist, playing drum
Look
with
at that.
Okonora. So I'm not just a comedian.
No, you're not just a comedian. And this is why this conversation we're having this evening is so important, because I know that in our small Jamaican community, and by small, it's relative, it's not the United States. And in our Jamaican community, whether or Jamaican diaspora is in Germany or in Japan or wherever we are, it's small in comparison to the rest of the world, but large, very much at large. I have to ask you this first because I don't want to forget this. As a person who helps persons with their communication skills and help people get over their fear of public speaking, as a performer, Owen, you have overcome what some would call be a speech impediment to do exactly what you're doing today. Walk us through that whole other excitement of your life.
So I love to share the story that the great erudite, awesome Trevor told me that I ought to rethink my options in theater, as an actor. You know? So he said, young man, you ought to rethink your options. To be an actor requires a certain kind of vocal virtuosity, and you have to speech impediments, young man. You lisp and you stutter. And I said, sir, impediments are things that hold you back. My talking never impede me yet. Whatever I do speech peculiarities, I'm simply different. And
good.
I actually began the process of therapy. So wrong word, ugly word, fix. And I thought, hell, I don't want to. Why do I need to? No, being normal is overrated. Being like everybody else is unnecessary. I have, I have studied enough to know where I need to put work in to ensure that there's clarity and there's accuracy when I talk. But I don't have to sound like the next person. And I'm very clear about that. The key thing is I'm delivering. You're hearing, you're understanding, and I'm delivering with accuracy and clarity. The fact that I'm slightly different shouldn't be an issue. We put too much of big value on sameness. And in Jamaica, we punish difference. We punish difference. And I'm like, hey, being normal is overrated. I love the way I sound.
And this is it. If we didn't have variety, if we didn't have what we have in terms of being different or peculiarities, and it's not only Jamaica. I think the entire world would want to want to overrate normalcy. What is normalcy? And this is something I tell, this is something I tell all the clients I work with, whether they come from Canada, India, Jamaica, whether they come from uptown, downtown. It's first of all, you don't want to sound like anybody else. You want to sound like you. Oh, I wish
I could. I was asked to do a short course at UTech in oral communication for some young people who are doing engineering. And they have to deliver their presentation and they want to get some tips on speaking. And I went to that and one young man saw me start laughing time, like, you, how this week? Oral, I didn't talking, but you can't talk. And he was laughing and I was like, okay, hold on. You know Foggy Borrows? He said, no. I said, okay, go back Foggy Borrows. Let's talk about Do you think Glenn Mills and Stephen Francis can run a good sprint? Can run fast? He said no, but they train the elite sprinters. I said, Foggy Bars was a man who had polio, right? He walked with a metal brace and he trained the likes of Merlin Atty. So I can train you and make you a better speaker. No matter how I
Exactly.
sound, what I can do with you, you know, because the great coaches can run fast, but there's trained sprinters to run fast. And you are the elite sprinter, and I'm your coach. Let's do this work. And he was like, okay, you got it.
Yeah.
I was able
Well,
to help him.
exactly. And this again are things that we need to again air out, talk about, and so on. One of the things too I wanted to ask you is this. A good approach, by the way, you know, I can communicate, I can explain myself, I can do all of these things. Love it, love that example. Do you remember the first time ever that you went on tour with a production as an actor? Where was this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The first time I went on a plane and left Jamaica, it was Carifest the 81 in Barbados, a School of Drama final year student to perform in Dennis Scott's Dog and Royal Gibbons Shepherd in 81 Barbados. And it changed my life.
Ooh, tell us about that change. Because you see, I love transformative discussions. I love it.
So we were doing the very intensely obscure and cryptic play called Dog by Dennis Scott. It is riveting, it is it is it is difficult, it is challenging intellectually, and it is creatively just wonderful. And we had talkback sessions with the audiences. And just to see the effect of the work of Dennis Scott on people and the way they, because I've done that play like 4 or 5 times with different directors, by Royal Gibbons, by Keith Noel, and by Trevor Nairn, different interpretation of a dog. And I played dog in all those different iterations. Each time I do the play, I learn something new. But the experience, we're in Barbados at the Jamaican contingent. We're doing these two very difficult plays that are entertaining, enlightening, but that's very different and innovative. And to hear the effect on people, when people watch the show and they begin to analyze and the effect it had on them intellectually and emotionally. People were crying and just being moved. And I was like, wow, we are doing that. You felt like you had in your hand magic,
Mhm.
you had power, that your body and your voice can engage people and have them simultaneously involved intellectually, emotionally, and physically. And what you're doing to them is transformative for them. It just transforms you as well. And I
Mm.
return thinking, hey, I'm onto something good. This is something special that we have in Jamaica. And yes, I know I'll do your poems too. No, that I've been given permission.
I want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, man.
Black, you can respond or not. I
Yeah.
would love to hear your comedic take, since you mentioned it, on what was happening and what has happened allegedly to Mr. Bowles' retirement funds.
Yeah. So I I just completed training to be commissioned in Jamaica as a justice of the peace. And one thing that we had to do as JPs in training was to look at laws and different acts and different um, laws and how they've been changed and so on. And one thing we discussed at length was the meaning of treason, treason and the felony. And when we look, for example, we thought, here's a good example. Thief in your saying about money is a good example of what we could call treason. Like a thief from the state. A man who was able to make up to such a large audience, such a large way. You take the man money, you know, you're a traitor to the country. That's what I feel about it. But beyond that, I feel it's an interesting example of how everybody see, but nobody don't know. And we have a thing we call see and blind here and there. Oh my God, this is Jamaican example of see and blind here and there.
Here and there.
Nobody don't know, but everybody know. And that's how Jamaica operates. There are some things that everybody know, but nobody don't know. And that same that same phenomenon cuts across everything from people's sex life and them sexual proclivities and who them do or not and so on. Everybody know, but nobody don't know. I mean, I say that a word about that because what we know, you must not know that me know that you know what me know, but that you don't know about what me know. But I don't know. Now I say that word.
And that is exactly where we stick a pin. Blakka, which is the best tour abroad you have ever done? Which country? I know you go to England, you go all about the place. Where in your mind have you gone, no matter what capacity you've held, that has been the most impactful, most enjoyable, top of top outside of Jamaica?
Two. We did a Caribbean tour as Gunrock Theatre Company with Suffer Song and with Whiplash. And we did like Trinidad, Barbados, St. Lucia, Dominica, Grenada, and so on. It was really rich. And we arrived on the Thursday, set up on dress rehearsal the Friday, and run performance Saturday, Sunday, shop around Monday, meet folks Monday and Tuesday, travel again. Was a great example of discovery of how the Caribbean is so alike but so different. That for me was very enriching. But I have to go back to 1992, Bello and Blakka. And again, I have to lift my hat to the fraternity and people like Oliver Samuels. Oliver Samuels recommended Bello and Blakka for a show. We went to do a TV appearance in a TV piece that Oliver was doing called Blows and Skirt. Oliver in a bar and him get passing through. So we had Errol Fabian from Trinidad and Tobago. We had about 3 or 4 other comedians and we did that. Based on that, we were invited back to do a tour. In Bello and Blakka, we did London, Leicester, Sheffield, Nottingham, Birmingham. That's Bello and Blakka comedy tour. That was, I felt like, wow, I am now a star, an entertainer. Many people lining up for autograph. I'm like, what? Autograph? We had big name acts like a cappella group, Tweet Honey in the Rock. We had Janet K opening for us, Bello and Blakka. It was amazing. And that really made me feel that, hello, I belong. This field of endeavor, I belong. I have a place. And I'm not just a fraud, a pretender. I'm actually a bona fide performer that can command an audience, that can do a tour, and each stop had people coming out to watch you, lining up for tickets and so on.
Yeah.
Done that. I feel like, yeah, I have a run. I did a run.
Have you ever experienced or suffered from what they call it? Imposter syndrome? Has that ever come across your path?
Occasionally. But it's very often fleeting. And I simply pause and remind myself that I belong. And I do it in various ways. Recently, and I can say this because no shame to my game, I had to go back and list all the plays that I've done between 76 and now. I said, okay, between then and now, I've done 34 plays as an actor, a range of plays. I've directed about 7 plays. I had to list and remind myself that, hey, if nobody gives you accolades, feel no way. You remind yourself that you have done the work and you belong. And I'm good with that.
Listen, I tell you, I think it's fantastic. What about the film work that you've done, Blakka? I know I've seen you on my big screen more than one time. Let's chat a little bit about that.
The first thing I do is to make a very big disclaimer and disclosure that some folks might think it's weird. I'm not fond of film and television, really. I love live theater. I love to get it right one time, every time for the audience, and get the feedback immediately.
Yes.
Film and TV is tedious, constructive work where you have to take 1, take 3, take 4, custom everything put together, and the magic in editing. Not my cup of tea. But when it pays and the jobs are there, I'll do it. right? So interestingly, there are two things that I did that are on film that I find very interesting as stories. I dancehall queen. I took a number of young people to the auditions, 3 or 4 trips for them to audition. I wasn't interested in on the audition. On the last trip, the kids said, "Sir, you know what? We know we're free to go. Can you walk with us?" I walked with them to get them signed up. And I walked in. Rick Elgood saw me. I said, "Hey, I know you. You're a comedian guy." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Hey, I want you in the film." And there and then, they arranged to write in 2 scenes to put me in dancehall queen.
Wow.
Audition. Didn't plan to be in it. That's how it happened. I ended up in dancehall queen. It happened again. I took some young people to audition for an ad. They were doing an ad for a car called the Fiat Doblo, and it was to have 3 or 4 young men perform acting as the Jamaican bobsled team. I
Mhm.
took people to the audition, and the man said, "Okay, you try to." And I tried out, and I got the part. And we ended up spending a week in Negril to film a 30-second TV ad. So, and those things are just divine destiny and serendipity.
Because that's what's in your DNA.
Yeah,
You, yeah, you attract what you are. That's
appreciate
what is in your DNA. As
it.
you mentioned, young people, let me take the foray into your foundation and the foundation you have established as a founder. Tell me, what is this foundation? Why? And how is it going? And how can we support you in this foundation?
Yeah. So I was raised by my aunt, my late aunt, Auntie Becca, my mother's older sister. She was abusive. She was she was verbally and physically abusive. But I discovered later on in life that she couldn't help it. She was not well. Um, but she raised us brutally, but she also put a big value on education. And so in honoring her, we have created the Becca Foundation. So it's Becca as in Auntie Becca always. Also Becca has been building education, community, and creative art. And the idea is Becca is based in Trenchtown, where we grew up, and the aim is to help young people to do what I did. So find your way through the world using what's available, education and the creative arts. So we offer scholarships. Right now we're running free lessons in Trenchtown for kids to learn music. We have like 12 guitars and 40 children. We need more guitars, we need more instruments. But they're learning keyboard, guitar, and drums. We're doing it at the Trenchtown Reading Center on First Street and Trenchtown Primary School. We also, and we've done between 2020 and now, without fanfare, giving scholarships, and they'll be able to lunch money and so on about it. But we do, you see, I have a challenge with works of foundations. The people have this big expectation of seeing a picture and the handing over, and those who are beneficiaries now become paraded around as, and I don't like that. You want to give quietly. You want to give and forget that those who receive will remember in a good way. So it's difficult, but we're doing it. And certainly if you want to help the foundation, we now have a Facebook page, Becca Trenchtown. You can go on, log on, and make contact with us, and we'll find ways to help us to help more young people.
Right. So therefore, what we can do is definitely drop this. I'm gonna actually drop it in the chat as we're here right now. It's Becca Foundation. So please do search for that.
And we're on Facebook now at Becca Trenchtown.
Okay.
And the foundation is partnering with the Trenchtown Optimist Club and the Ellis family and Uncle Arthur's estate to do a show on February 18, a reggae month endorsed, Jerry endorsed show called in Remembering Arthur and Arthur Ellis, featuring all my wonderfully talented cousins singing their father and mother's songs.
that
And
is
it can
very.
be streamed on YouTube on my channel, The Real Blakka.
Mhm. So please, everyone, remember that, mark it down. It is February 18, and it's gonna be streamed on Blakka's platform. And just follow up. I'm gonna be putting more descriptions in this presentation later on when we wrap up tonight. Now, as you speak about helping the young people, Becca Foundation, and and you personally try to get your students involved even more in the arts, I don't want us to not touch your experience in groundwork theater back in the day. What was that? How did you get involved? And what was the need for the groundwork theater? What is it for anyone who does not know?
So it began in 1981-82 at the School of Drama Outreach Arm. The idea was to create a company of graduates of the School of Drama who would then take the school's work to communities. We did work in schools, in communities, and in theater, which had always been the drama school's tripartite approach. It's people to be good theater practitioners, act and direct and design and so on, theater artists. So
Mhm.
we did that. Also, the school prepares people to use their craft, their skills to facilitate development in in communities with young people with different demographics and so on. But we did that, and we also took theatre in schools to help to enliven the curriculum and to get the children to find a way in to the very difficult text that they had to study for lit and history. We did that, and that's a groundwork did between February 82 and up to 87. We were doing that, and then but it was a funded project, and as funding as people who are funded, their interests change from youth development to gender work to environment. As the funding dried up, the company died a natural death.
I see. I see. I see. Ooh. Uh, I feel like, oh my God. But you know what? Everything for its time.
And the season, definitely.
Yes, everything for its time and a season. As you may know, we talk to many authors here on this platform, but like we discussed earlier on in our conversation, I don't see myself being restricted to just one thing. And one of the reasons why we do speak with authors is because so many of us were never told that, yes, you could actually become an author and live from it. Because
Mhm.
again, it's a creative endeavor. And it didn't receive as much weight as, say, going to be a doctor or even a secretary for that matter.
Mhm.
And so I wanted us always to talk about, what made you decide to write? You have been published as a writer. So I want you to share that part of your life with us. You were showing us a book last night when we were trying to go live, but we couldn't get there. But tell me a little bit about your life. I think you're always writing anyway, frankly. But you know what? Tell me a little bit about that side of Owen Blakka Ellis.
So I to begin with the fact that people who end up writing invariably are people who love reading. And because you enjoy consuming this thing called the written word, and it really does something for you, want to share that what it does for you with other people. And that's how it began. I grew up in Trenchtown, but I was into reading. Once something was written, I had to read it. I read every street sign, the piece of graffiti. I read the bus ticket, the back and the front. I read every sign on the bus. And I still read every car license plate number. I read our sardine tin, New Brunswick, made in Newfoundland. I read the tin and milk. I used to wonder why them call this knife ratchet. Got it marked Okapi, not ratchet. And words just turned me on. Because I loved words, I was reading. I would walk to the library, borrow a book, and read. And because I love reading, I began to practice my love for words by writing. I was first published in the Children's Zone years ago, and I felt like, ooh,
Yes,
to
the
see
green
the word
newspaper,
that
the
you
green
write,
paper for picnic, right?
yes, oh my God, to see your work on paper is an empowering, magical thing. And that's what had fed me with desire to write. So I wrote through primary school. I wrote in high school. I was the school magazine editor. I was writing articles for school magazine. I was writing cheers for champs every year. I was writing lyrics, doing parodies and songs to cheer at champs for Excelsior. I end up writing songs for Judy Mowat, other people. So
Wow.
practice,
Now you see, that's a detail we never know. Judy Mott, one of the well-known I3's backing female vocalists for Bob Marley and the Wailers, alongside Rita Marley, widow of Bob Marley, and the inimitable Marcia Griffiths. You wrote songs for Judy Mott.
yeah, man. She had an album called Look at Love. The title track was written by me, and about 4 or 5 other tracks on the album. So that work was there published. So I've been writing.
I didn't know that. You've been keeping secrets from us, man. I love this. Now we're gonna have to check out that album, my people.
Yeah, Look at Love by Judy Mott.
Look
And
at
also
love.
a song that came second in the festival song competition in year 2000 called Weekend. So I believe that writing, I don't believe in limiting oneself. I write songs, I write poetry, I write speeches. I have written speeches for people with big names who I can't call. I have to have NDA, and but I'm also a piece writer. I've written a script for LTM Pantomime. I've written a script for big events like the Independence Grand Gala, Prime Minister Youth Award for Excellence.
Mhm.
And I've written a column in the Star for 14 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
What did you learn from that long 14-year experience?
I learned that people will read what you write and decide what it means for them, and you shouldn't care. Their meaning belongs to them. You don't, I learned, Peter, that you, as a writer, you don't own meaning. You don't own meaning.
Wow, that's
Right,
almost
they
like
were-
a painter.
Yeah?
That's almost like a painter. You do your art, put it up.
Yeah, you don't own the meaning, because the meaning is what people get from it. I have learned that when they respond to my article. People will read it and cuss you out because they don't agree with you, or they read what you write and get something else. And that's what I learned. I also learned how we can manipulate a particular text in different ways. I remember one time I would write an article, and the editor would say, Blakka, it's too academic. And I would take it back and simply insert between a long run-on sentence, insert for real, or insert bona fide, or insert, you want to know, say, and it suddenly felt less like like an essay. That I've learned how we take for granted that different forms require different treatment with words. I tell people all the while, you cannot read an essay and say it's a speech.
No, you cannot.
You have to write oral language for a speech. You have to write. So, and writing from the start every week taught me that, reinforce that lesson, that you have to decide. My word count was 600 words for each article. So I would write a long essay, then cut it down, pare it down, change the word structure, change how it becomes an article and an essay.
Correct.
I've learned to adapt my writing to fit different
Scenarios.
When
And
I
not
write
very many
songs,
people have that skill. It's the same way, like when I explain to people the very same thing you just described. You can't read an essay and call it a speech, because you're actually not speaking at people, but you're speaking and conversing with people. That's what you're definitely doing. From our conversation, I can deduce some of the persons who inspire you and spur you on. Who inspires you today, Blakka?
every ordinary, unsung, unrecognized person that seem obscure and unimportant, they inspire me. Their stories, their images, their ideas, their responses to me inspire me. Beyond that, though, I get my biggest inspiration from watching the work of people like Louise Bennett and Dennis Scott. Dennis Scott, as a teacher, as a mentor, as a writer, is a great inspiration. What he teaches with economy of words and the brilliant play with words and so on. And Miss Lou as an intersection of learning and laughter is just for me fantastic. And those are the people who really inspire me. Beyond those big names, there are other folks that people watch. Walk downtown, watch people overhear their nuances, their rhythm, their vocabulary, and that feeds my spirit, feeds my soul, and informs my creative.
I am loving this. I'm loving this. I am looking here in our chat to see if there's anybody we would have left out, and I don't want to leave out anybody for tonight. Burnett, what you have to say? Where is your comments? Burnett said, Lord, what a man brilliant, sir. you are currently at Edna Manley, your stomping ground. As a senior lecturer, how does it feel being there today in 2023? What is the feeling like? What is the temperature like of the students there today?
Well, the first thing is I'm not at the School of Drama, which is where people assume that I am. I'm at the School of Arts Management and Humanities. I teach arts managers, not theater artists. That's the first thing. But it's a different place from where I attended years ago. It's a different space. It's larger. There are more people there here now, and it's 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 a it's a more academic bound space, and we're struggling to inject in the students the same fire that we had in our time.
You're struggling to so let me hear you good. You're struggling as a collective.
Yeah.
You're struggling to inject our students with
fire. Yeah, man. With the fire.
What do you think is the barrier to that?
It is the impetus. The impetus is we want to come here, get the credits, do the work, and get our degree. Our time, we came because we want to change the world. We want to prove that we own this country. So when I ask, in my time, everybody was a something. You are a Rasta, you are feminist, or you are Marxist, or you are something. You self-ID with a movement, with a struggle, with a passion, with something. No, there are students who want a degree. You know, I ask them, who are you? They're like, I'm a year one. But who are you? In my time, I am Rasta, I am Christian, I am Marxist, I am feminist, I am something. And that's fire. That's what moves you, what ignites you, what you is different now than it was then.
I hear you. I hear
a piece of paper, both of them.
Yeah.
Them don't want to change the world. We want to change the world. 1,000 we want to rebuild something. We had a fire to go there and do something. No, they must want to get the work done. And I keep telling them, students, don't worry about GPA. And I'm like, just do good work. And GPA going to come. Just do good work.
You know what? You're going to have to drop some theater arts on them for them to get that, for real. You're going to have to do that. Where is Blakka going to be over the next 10, 20, 15 years?
One day at a time, sweet Jesus.
That's all right.
I'm on a long journey to complete PhD. And I must tell you, and I'm being completely vulnerable and open here, I feel like, why do I need a PhD? Part of me said that. But a part of me said, hello, you did start it. You need no other reason than having started it, you must complete it. And that's no the impetus to complete it based on that.
And I want to tell you something too. I love study. That's the only reason that's the only reason I do degrees. I love study. If better work comes as a result of it, great. I noticed that with all my higher education, nary a person has even asked to see anything. And I'm here doing my work because of the higher studies I have engaged with, because it does something for you and to you. Because, for instance, you have a master's degree in environmental sciences.
Yeah, environmental studies,
Yeah, and that is fabulous. To me, that's fabulous, because it's all about learning the changing world we're in. As I was saying to a friend of mine today, that a business student of 5 years ago is way behind someone who has been running their 12-month business and doing very well today.
Not true.
So education is relative. You know, qualification, of course, is also relative. It's always asking yourself the question, the who, the why. As we wrap up, I know we went over our hour, but it had to happen. As we wrap up, I remember, Owen, too, when it was the first time going to Turks and Caicos. We went to Turks and Caicos with that theater production too, didn't we?
With When the Cat's Away?
When the Cat's Away, if I'm not mistaken. I think we did go to Turks and Caicos. That was with our dancehall queen actress, as
Audrey Reed and
right, and
yeah,
Calvin,
yeah.
the late Calvin. And one of the reasons why I remember that so much, it was the first time I've ever been to another Caribbean island and wanted to stay outside of Jamaica and wanted to
Yeah.
stay because it was so beautiful. So I bring this up simply to say that your work as a theater artist, your work as an educator, writer, it truly provides you with this privileged pilgrimage grounds to walk on internationally, locally, in town, in country. And I believe that that's a very rich life.
Thank you for that.
And the work is its own reward indeed.
Thank you for that.
You know, it is my pleasure to know you closely because yes, everybody will see the comedian. Everybody wants to laugh when they see Blakka show up.
Yeah.
But I know that you feel deeply in your heart and think deeply about so many things in this life. And I'm glad that we get to share you.
Appreciate it. And
I'm glad we get to share you.
I'm an open book and my life is like it's like an old fridge. I keep nothing. It's spoiled. I release it all and you make it what you will.
I am loving it. I am loving it. I look forward to seeing all the work, a collection of the work that you wrote for The Gleaner. I'd love to see those compiled
Yes.
and produced.
Thank you for
And
that.
they
Yes.
need to be.
Yes. Yes.
They need to be.
Yes.
That's a part of your legacy.
Yeah.
I'd love to see all your scripts produced in written form. Plays written by, co-produced, co-wrote by Owen Blakka Ellis. That's your PhD right there. Everything
The PhD is gonna be about Trenchtown.
Yes.
The big work is gonna be about Trenchtown. That story is yet to be told in the way that really makes sense for people to understand. Trenchtown Trenchtown is just an interesting, magical, mysterious place. It is the place, you know, that the most requested place in Jamaica for Airbnb is Trenchtown.
I believe you.
Trenchtown is the place where reggae and Rasta had their birth. Yet it is still among the poorest and most crime-ridden places in Kingston. Why? The whole heap of why and who did it and who benefits from Trenchtown being elevated. I didn't want to start. I didn't want to start about that.
You know what? We do the work, do the publications them that I need for you to do.
Yes.
Because it's a part of your legacy. They live way beyond you. When you leave this earth, when we all leave this earth, people like you and I, we need to leave empty. We need to put everything out.
Totally. In fact, it just reminded me that I look at the book. It just reminded me, we're not gone. But I figure in the poem, this Sony and Why I Write, I'm gonna read one poem from my collection, Rhythm and Riddles. May I?
Please be my
Poem is
guest.
called Fun and Joke Aside. Take the comic cracks with a pinch of salt. Taste the burnt pot scrapings of each story. For when this tired, tried and tested vessel of my soul makes final service, whether gently grounded, boldly broken, or crashing spectacle, you'll find no hidden ingredient, no verse to salvage, no crumbs among the wreckage. All my verbs would have been long consumed, plate cleaned, cup rinsed, hands washed, and every wretched, weary wonderful, sad and savory morsel in my slow-cooked, unquenched quest for meaning would have been scooped up, devoured, digested.
This is a well digested experience.
Thank you.
Owen Blakka Ellis, son of the Jamaican soil, rich cultural patriarch now at your age, and patriot. We really, really, really thank you for serving us tonight. Thank you for just a quick peek in the mind of the man.
Thank
We
you.
thank you for your versatility. We thank you for your consummate artistry. We ask you to continue, and we celebrate you and we appreciate you. Thank you so much for sharing with us tonight.
Pleasure.
This is
Thank
not the last time we shall have this conversation. Everyone, for you who have tuned in and watched and kept us company and dropped your questions in the chat and your comments, go ahead, like and share this video because we just need to get the word out. Remember the Becca Foundation. You can help. Just reach out to the man. Him up on Facebook.
Otherwise,
Reach out to him. He's on Facebook. DM him is all right. Him will answer you.
yeah, I do. I will.
I just saw
Always.
it,
Yeah,
right? And let us see how we can pour in and support and go forward. Blakka, thank you so much for being my guest on
Thank
Bond
you.
Right. Thank you for the piece of poem. Thank you for you. Thank you for life. God bless.
Every
Walk.
time. Thank you.
Have a good one.